Hey guys, Scott here for the Mental Metal channel and mentalmetaldetecting.com, and what you're looking at right now is Steve's detector rod for the XP Deus 2 with the external antenna run up through the shaft, comes all the way out the back, but it comes out the RCDigs mount, and I'm going to show you how to do all this. It's not very hard. Alright, so stay tuned, we're just getting started. Alright guys, I got everything disassembled. I have the coil taken off. I have all the parts of the coil sitting here, including the rubber gasket. This is an extra piece of coil wire wrap. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that in the end. Here is the antenna for the XP Deus, the mount, or for the coil, mounts on the coil, and then runs up through the lower shaft. We'll show you how to do that. I got the RCDigs mount right here. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. And I think we got it all set up. So I'm going to move this stuff out of the way a little bit. Now, a couple things I want to show you. I have the shaft completely condensed right now. So it is in the completely condensed format. But I wanted to show you the end of the shaft. It's got a hole in it in the lower shaft. Like I mentioned earlier, if you are going to purchase Steve's detector rods, the way I'm going to show you today, you will not have to purchase for the extra $10 the hole that will come out of the upper shaft to run the wire. We're going to show you how to do it with the RCDigs mount. This is for the RCDigs remote case for the Deus 2. This is how it's going to work only for this setup. So if you order a mount through RCDigs, through Steve's detector rods, and you want to run your antenna, you do not need to do the extra hole in the upper shaft. It's going to cost you an extra $10 if you do that, but you can save yourself $10 and do it this way, and it's going to be just as good. All right, so we're going to do that. I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second. But the first thing you want to do, you got to make sure everything's taken apart. From your coil has to come off. You cannot slip the cable, the antenna wire, up under this hole with the shaft attached to the coil. It's just not enough room in there, and you can't do it. So best if you take the coil off and then run it up through manually yourself, like we're going to do here in a second. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I want to do is I'm going to take the end, this end of the wire, and I'm going to route it up through the bottom of the shaft. I'm just going to keep, oops, I dropped it. Hold on a second here. I'm going to push it up through there and hold one end. And just keep pushing until it gets all the way out to the back. Just like that. All right. So now what I want you to do is I want you to pull this almost all the way through. And there's a reason why we're doing that. All right. So we almost have it through. What we want to do is we want to keep enough space at the end. So when we do attach the coil, we're going to do that here in a second. I'm going to extend this out a little bit. We're going to have enough gap, or enough, not gap, but enough give in the coil that we'll be able to put this on. There'll be enough, freedom to move and things like that. But you do not want to attach the antenna connector to the coil just yet. You need to leave this all undone. The wire itself has to be free, because what happens is when you put this mount on and you run it through this slot, you're going to turn it into this shaft, and it's going to need to freely move, so the wire turns as you're turning this mount into the shaft, the upper shaft. All right, so it's a very important step that I don't want you to mess up. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to extend the lower rod a little bit longer here. I have it marked on my shaft how long I typically use it, or how long I typically have a mark right here. So I'm just going to line that up with the middle of that mark there, so that I know I have enough length in this part of my shaft for the wire. Now I have everything all the way pulled through, so that's good. So what I want to do now is I'm going to start running this wire through this bottom slot. You see how I'm doing this? It doesn't have to be in there perfect. You just have to have it in there guided till you start turning it. So you just hold it with one finger make sure you get that, make sure you get it in there and turning correctly. You'll know if it's not. You got to get it seated just right, or it won't screw in right. I have mine in there crooked right now. There we go. I can feel it. It just went in there. So just hold it for a second till you get it started. And once you get it started, it's pretty simple. And it kind of goes by itself. But it's following that slot. That's what you need to do. You need to have it in there, so the slot. And then if you run into the problem where you're hitting you're actually hitting your arm cuff, you can extend this out a little bit. So you can move this back out, so you get enough clearance, and lock that shaft down a little bit so it doesn't move on you, and just keep screwing it in. And your wire is going to want to go with you. Just let it freely move, and you'll feel it get tight. And there you go. The hard part's done, folks. That's really the hard part. So what you're going to do now is, what I want to do is I want to put the coil back on my shaft, attach it to my coil. I'm going to line that up properly like I always would. And you're going to put that side nut on the side here. Make sure it's going to lock in. Just like that. And then you're going to run the screw in this way. Alright, once you get that bolt going through, make sure you hold the antenna wire down a little bit so it doesn't run in. I was having a problem where I'm actually hitting the antenna wire with the bolt. So I'm starting the bolt first, then I'm going to put this nut in so it all fits in there great, and then I'm going to put the last nut in there. And now it should tighten up just fine. The wire is not in the way. I'm going to tighten that up. And there it goes. Alright, so we have it really decently tightened so there's no give in it. I have enough slack right now that it'll actually fit on there just fine. And I could, if I wanted to, I can actually pull this through a little bit. If I wanted to make it a little bit more tight, I could do that just by doing that, or I can pull it from this end and try to make it a little tighter like this. If you can see what I'm doing, I'm pulling from, the nice thing about it, from the mount itself, it is still free to move. So if you're pulling this way and you want to make this a little tighter, you can do that. And watch, you'll see the coil or the antenna wire get tighter. I don't want to make it too tight. I want to make it so it has some free motion there. And I'll probably keep it just about that right there. So there's no real tight corners on it, and I kind of like the way that looks right there. I'm gonna lock in the lower shaft right now so it doesn't move. And then I'm going to go up here to the top. Now I'm going to kind of show you what I'm going to do. Remember, one thing I want to point out too, a lot of people think that you need to have the clip on the end of the antenna cable and the clip that actually fits on top of the remote. You don't need that. You just have to have this antenna wire close to the remote itself. So the nice thing about the RC mount is he's got a channel on each side of the mount where you can actually run the antenna wire, and you see that my little plastic part is actually broken off. I broke it off last year. It doesn't affect the antenna at all. It just runs up through here, and so you don't need much, and it just lays across, or it doesn't even need to lay across. And the one thing Steve wanted me to mention to you in this video is for you taller people who have who may not have the long remote or an antenna cable that comes with the Deus. There are a couple different lengths you can now purchase for the antenna wire, and some people are choosing the one that's just fits the XP Deus 2, the length of the shaft. If you're a tall person, he wanted to stress that you may run out of wire, but you have enough. If you stretch it completely out, the shaft extends, you will have enough wire that it will still run up into the side of the remote case just fine, and it'll still pick up a signal. So don't think you can't do it. You can do it. I happen to have the super long extra long antenna cable that I got when I purchased my XP Deus 2. So since then they've come out with some different sizes. So depending on which one you get, all you got to really do is make sure it's up in this up in this shaft, up in this little cylinder here that the antenna sits into. That's all you got to do. It doesn't have to come all the way up and around. It doesn't have to click into the top of the remote or anything. It just needs to sit in there. All right. So just keep that in mind. Now, what I want to do is don't put that in yet. What we're going to do now is we're going to wrap this wire around, and you'll see that I have an actual wire tie or you know, an extra wire tie for my. I have them laying around everywhere. I just use one here to kind of keep this wire locked in place once you start wrapping it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start wrapping it like this. Hopefully you can see that. Start wrapping it around. Hold it with your hand so it doesn't move. You want to keep it somewhat tight so you get it started, and then you'll see what happens. You'll start getting it started, and you can start tightening it together, making it closer, so it's real neat, tightly wrapped, like I'm doing. Nope, I just broke off the rest of it. See that? It doesn't matter. You don't need it. But I will silicone the end of that now that I did break it for my own purposes here. But for the most part, you're not going to need it. You don't need that plastic part. Just get it tight enough where you have enough of the wire that you feel will go up in there without not too much extra. So right now I think I got it. Yep. That's as much as I want. And see, I don't have it tight. It's still pretty loose, so it can move, but it's not gonna move. And if I let go of this, the wire doesn't you know, come undone. But what I like to do is I like to put this cable tie up here, and I just kind of want to hold this in place. So what I'll do is I'll just put this little wire tie here, wrap it around, and that way it is locked in, doesn't move, and it looks neat, and I like it. Now all you got to do is put your remote in. You don't need to put this over top. You can actually push this down there if you want, but I like to have mine up a little bit, and then you put the top back on it like so, and then you just put your 2 screws in, tighten them down, make sure it's tight, and bam, you've just now run the antenna all the way up the center shaft, out the RCDigs mount, and there you go. Your antenna is good as good, good as good, good as gold. And now you can actually collapse your lower shaft just like this, like you normally could, and you can collapse your upper shaft just like you normally could, or extend it, I should say. This is shortened. So there you go. No issues, man. This is a sweet setup. Now, the other thing I want to show you too, let's say for instance, you know, maybe you don't want to, maybe you want to put the antenna on and it's a pain in the butt to take off all the time, and you know, it's kind of something you don't want to do all the time. Well, I'm going to show you a way to stow your antenna and your gasket, so you can have it with you all. You don't have to get rid of the antenna. It can stay on the machine. Here's what I'm going to do. Take the antenna connector off of the coil, put it right here, making sure it's not tight. You can pull some of this out if you want, give it some slack. Take an extra wire tie that you have for, you know, one of your other machines. Make sure you can see this, and just wrap it around like you normally would. You get the idea. That's going to hold it in place. But what do you do with the gasket? You need the gasket to attach it to the coil itself. Well, the nice thing is you have this upper piece to your RCDigs mount. Pop that off. And this is the beauty. Pop it off, and all you got to do is put it right inside, and it's wide enough that it stays in there tight. So you shake it, won't come out. It's not coming out. Put your top back on, tighten it back down. You don't have to remove your antenna, folks. You can leave it on there as long as you want. That's been kind of the pain in the butt with the antenna. When you go on land, you got to take it off, or if you don't, you get worried about snagging on something, or worried about losing the gasket. Well, guess what? I just solved that for you. It is now perfectly out of the way. It moves freely. It's not tight. You got yourself a solution right there. Plus, you got yourself a killer coil, or I'm sorry, a killer shaft with Steve's detector rods. You got yourself an amazing mount for the remote case. It's not going to fall off. It's screwed in there tight, and you got a really nice wired setup system for your external antenna for the XP Deus 2. What do you guys think? Hope you liked it. Hope this helps. If you guys are looking for these, you know how to get a hold of Steve. StevesDetectorRods.com and RCDigs.com for the mounts. But you can order everything through Steve, and he will talk to RCDigs to get yourself the mount. Remember, you do not need the upper hole drilled in the shaft. You don't need it. Save yourself 10 bucks. All right? I'm showing you how to do this as if you did not have a drilled system or drilled Steve's detector rods for the XP Deus 2. So ran it up, again, ran it right up the middle of the shaft, all the way out to the top, pulled everything through, gave myself enough slack down here, and then tightly wrapped all this stuff around neatly, and there you go, you got yourself a solution. All right, I hope this was helpful, useful. I think I showed everything I needed to show, including the hiding of the gasket and your external stowing of the antenna. I could do a little better wrapping on that, but that's what you got. Well, let me know. Hopefully you liked it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Reach out to Steve, reach out to RCDigs. Got any questions for them? But there you go. That is your Steve's detector rods for the XP Deus 2 with the RCDigs mount and the external XP Deus antenna mounted and run all the way up the shaft and out through the back. Let me know. Hope it was useful. Thanks for watching.